Hi, I'd like to share a scary story from my life. Back then, creepypastas were really popular, especially Charlie. Like many others, we decided to try summoning him. We held hands. It was me, my brother, and my friend. Lit some candles and repeated the phrase, "Charlie, Charlie, come here," 3 times. As usual, I wanted to scare everyone, so I blew on the pencil, thinking this whole thing was just a silly game. But instead of fun, it only brought me fear. That night, my friend went home. My grandma and my mom was at work, were getting ready for bed when suddenly, the chair we had used for the ritual started shaking. I'm not joking, it really happened. I have a cat, so it would have been logical to blame him, but he was in another room. My grandma, brother, and I were lying in bed, completely shocked and confused. I was terrified, and since that day, I've never messed with the supernatural again. Story 2. I live with my mom and younger brother. My parents are divorced, and I haven't seen my father in years. We lived in an apartment on the 20th plus floor. When I was 8 years old, my mom and brother would often leave to run errands, so I was home alone a lot. It never scared me. I had gotten used to it. But one day, something strange happened. My aunt, along with her daughter, 15 years old, and son, 12 years old, asked if they could move in with us because they had lost their apartment due to debt. We took them in. One day my cousin decided to summon a spirit she had read about online. I thought it would be something like Chucky or Bloody Mary, but no. She prepared a piece of paper, placed a pencil on top of another so it could spin, and we started asking yes or no questions. After we finished, we threw the paper away and forgot about it. But after that, whenever I was home alone, weird things started happening. Strange noises, loud thuds, heavy objects randomly falling. I was really scared, but I didn't tell anyone. I was afraid they wouldn't believe me and would think I was crazy. Then one morning, while we were all having breakfast, my aunt started acting weird. She kept fidgeting, looking around nervously, and had an expression of pure terror on her face. After everyone else left the kitchen, she suddenly asked, "Did you see him too?" I was shocked. This was my chance to tell someone everything I had been feeling. When I told her about my experiences, her face went pale. The next week, she moved out with her kids into a dormitory. Later, I told my mom everything. To my surprise, she believed me. In fact, she admitted that she had also felt something strange in that apartment. In the end, we sold the apartment and moved out. Story 3. I've experienced many strange and terrifying things in my life, but this one stands out the most. 4 years ago, when I was 16, something happened that made me check my door locks multiple times every night before going to sleep. That day, I had invited a friend for a sleepover. I was living with my parents at the time, but they had gone to visit some friends overnight. So it was just me, my older brother, 17 years old, and my friend at home. My brother hung out with us for a while, but he went to bed early since he had to wake up early in the morning. My friend and I stayed up watching YouTube and chatting. Around 2 a.m., my friend started feeling sleepy and quickly passed out. But I wasn't tired, so I kept watching videos. Suddenly, I heard a noise outside. At first, I ignored it. It was probably the neighborhood cats climbing on our coal shed, which was covered in metal sheets. Whenever they did, it would make a loud metallic sound. That's exactly the kind of noise I had just heard. But then, about 5 minutes later, a shadow flashed past my window. It happened so fast that I could have dismissed it as my imagination. But 2 strange events happening so close together, that felt off. I got up from my chair and went to check the front door. Both locks were unlocked. I immediately locked them and decided to turn on the outside light. Then I looked through the peephole and saw a face. I nearly jumped back in terror. There was a man, around 25-30 years old, standing way too close to the peephole. I looked again, and then he spoke. "Open up, I need help." But the scariest part wasn't his words. It was his face. His voice sounded terrified, as if he was truly in danger. But his expression was completely blank. His lips were moving, but his eyes were empty, completely devoid of emotion. I just stood there, frozen. He kept begging louder and louder, but his face remained lifeless. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. It was my brother. "What are you doing?" he asked. I told him someone was standing outside. We both looked through the peephole, but the man was gone. What the hell, I thought. My brother told me that he had seen someone outside the window too, but assumed it was just his imagination. We turned off the lights in the house and started watching the windows. And then we heard a scream from my room. We ran inside and saw my friend completely pale and shaking. And right outside the window stood the same man. But this time his expression had changed. His once empty eyes now looked predatory. Even though the house was dark and the yard lights were bright, he somehow locked eyes with me. And then he smiled, a wide, unnatural grin. He slowly lifted his hand, revealing a massive knife. Then with calm precision, he started tapping the tip of the knife against the glass. That's when my brother grabbed the phone and called the police. I have no idea why we hadn't thought to call them earlier. As soon as my brother finished speaking to the dispatcher, the man disappeared. The police arrived 10 minutes later, but he was nowhere to be found. They took our statements, created a sketch of the man, and contacted our parents. Officers stayed with us until our parents got home. Despite the fact that they put up wanted posters all over the city, the man was never caught. Since that day, I triple-check my door locks every night, and I'm eternally grateful that my father had bars installed on all our windows, because I don't even want to imagine what would have happened if they hadn't been there.